Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Alien versus Predator Galaxy podcast, the original Alien and Predator podcast. This is regular host Aaron Percival, and joining me are my fellow, I'm going to assume, whiny fanboys for this one.
Or incompetent crew members, Adam Zeller, aka RidgeTop.
Greg, also known as Still Collating.
And wait. And joining us for the first time in I don't know how many fucking years is...
Jack, known as Dachande.
How many years has it been? It was Alien Cloning Marines?
It might have been Isolation when we did the... Did we do
Yes,
a video for the
when
studio visit?
after we came back from Horsham, yeah, we recorded a
Yeah.
little something.
I just looked at the pictures and we look like little babies in that. It's
We
a
were
long time
little
ago.
babies, little babies. Now we're old people with grey beards and grey hair.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
If you guys get to go to Creative Assembly again, you gotta recreate an old photo that you took there. That would be fun.
To be fair, there wasn't shots of us together. You got like a shot of back of my head and Jack from the front on, and then one the other way around. And I remember hating how I looked in those photos from Horsham.
I look so different. Like, I have like your old kind of like mohawk hairstyle. So
Yes.
yeah, so I like a strip, and now I've got all this, and I'm just like, I don't want to recreate that part. I'd have to shave.
So Jack has been on the website for a long time, and was on a good handful of the first sort of few episodes when we were trying to get it more regularly. But yes, since we're trying to do more of the staff on these, Alien Earth reviews, he is back to give us his impressions. How do you feel about the show so far, Jack?
I've really been liking it. Like, it's probably kind of like reignited my passion for the series a bit, because like I'd been out of the loop for like a few years now. I played the games and stuff like that, but like I haven't really paid any attention to the other stuff. But like talking to you guys recently, I've started reading Cold Forge. I got a bunch of the books that you guys mentioned to read through, and I've been really enjoying it. Like, I thought the first 4 episodes really kind of remind me of like your kind of like Dark Horse original comics, where like it's a bit silly, but like I'm fine with that, because like you have things like Jerry, who's like a cyborg synthetic alien in the old comics and stuff like that, and having this whole synths with like kids' minds and stuff like that is the kind of wacky kind of weirdness that you kind of expect from it. So up till now, I've been really enjoying it. I've been staying up late for every episode till 3 in the morning most times. But yeah, I've really been enjoying it so far. Like, I think Morrow has been phenomenal for a lot of it, and yeah, it's kind of been like, yeah, a lot of it I've just been really enjoying. Like, I'm a fairly simple person. Like, I'm not going to be too judge of a lot of things, but it's been like, it's kind of hit what I kind of like expected from an Alien series, essentially.
Cool. And how about this episode in particular then? Because this is our 5th episode review. We are talking about In Space, No One.
Like, it's weird, because it was probably the episode I was most looking forward to. Like, you see when in the first 2 episodes, when I forgot what their names, Hermit and the other like rescue team are going through it, like you see like the command bit of the Maginot, and there's like bodies thrown over the place. There's someone like who's been like ripped in half, and I'm like, that's the kind of stuff that like that this is episode to kind of dig into. But it all felt a bit flat for me. Like, a lot of the crew you kind of meet, like you've already seen a good chunk of them dead in the first couple of episodes, and it didn't feel like it really added anything to the story so far, apart from just filling in like, this is how it crashed. But yeah, like the stuff with Morrow, I like seeing him and the like his reading his letters from his family and stuff like that. Like, I think that added a lot to his character as well. But the overall plot, the sabotage on the ship and stuff like that, it just fell a bit flat for me. Like, I still thought it was okay. Like, I'd watch it again, but it didn't quite hit the levels that like the other first few episodes have.
Okay, that's reasonable. Greg, go on. I know you're going to be a whiny fanboy.
Well, I'll do my best to emphasize things that I liked as well, but let's start first with overall. So, I've been enjoying the episodes in general more and more. Liked a good chunk of the third episode, and I thought most of the fourth episode was really well done, the best so far. And then this one comes along, and yeah, with the execution, I was disappointed. Uh, to put it simply, I was I was predominantly mostly worried with the suit and the alien, like how they portray what it does, but I wasn't thinking about the other elements that could be problematic. I think just the whole setup and the whole kind of how others have also kind of described it. I want Alien. Oh, we have Alien at home, kind of a bootleg variant type of thing. Uh, it it felt like um, that it's a completely separate thing from the rest of the series and what it tries to do. It doesn't land. Uh, it doesn't stick the mark fully there for me. I'll get into the details later, but was kind of just sad to see that the episode where we see what happened was uh, at this level of enjoyment for me. And in a strange way, I am excited for the next episode because I know we're done with this and we're going back to
Yeah.
the rest, and I hope that we can continue on from the highs of the fourth episode. So, just a final note: I was just kind of so confused with why I didn't like the episode so much that I was sticking to the end of the credits to actually see who made it in that way. And then I kind of realized, with my relative dislike of the first and second one, they all have our showrunner as the main singular writer, and it's so then become apparent to me that I just don't jive too much with his style of writing when he's singular. When other directors are directing and writing the episodes along with him, I've liked that a lot more. So it was kind of aha. I saw a pattern there that just with my preferences doesn't fit too well as of now.
Okay. Adam, I have no idea how you feel about this one, actually. I don't think you've really been participating in our chat today, obviously,
I
because you've been snoozing.
I chimed in a little bit earlier. I did not like it. And it's tough because I've really enjoyed this show up until this point. I've been, I've felt really the first four episodes were all really strong, and I need to watch this one again and give it another chance. But it's one of those ones where I'm like, am I crazy here? Because I've seen a lot of reviews and people online saying this is the best one, saying like this one episode is the best alien movie kind of since Aliens, because it's its own thing on the Maginot. And the Maginot was this mystery hanging over the whole season that we got glimpses of in the first episode, right? So I was very much anticipating seeing what went down on the ship. And I feel like with any fiction, with any movie or show, you give it some leeway in terms of logic, right? In terms of just kind of going with it because it's fiction. But if you have thing after thing after thing that's just doesn't make sense, or characters who in this context really should not be stupid acting very, very, very stupid, it gets frustrating. And this episode, I thought, one of the strongest things about the series is the chemistry with the main cast, and we didn't have that here with the crew at all. I think, in the first Alien, the Nostromo crew don't really like each other too much, but they still kind of had this vibe, that worked. And we didn't really get that here. Again, I think Morrow is the strong point of this episode. Babu Sise continues to kill it with with this character, but even some of his actions I thought made little sense in this episode. So yeah, overall, this was a pretty disappointing episode for me. Um, and this was something that Jamie kind of mentioned on Perfect Organism podcast, is that it felt like it derailed his enjoyment of the series a little bit, and I feel like it did that for me. So I hope we can get back on the tracks with the next episode. But yeah, this one, I would say it was like average at best, kind of leaning more towards poor slash bad for me, unfortunately.
I haven't listened to their after show yet. So what was the general vibe over there?
I know Jamie didn't like it. He also thought it was the worst of the season. I think the rest were a little, they were still critical, but maybe not quite as harsh on it as he was. But I think overall it was more, except for one of them, I think it was more dislike than like.
Not to be a broken record, but yeah, I agree. I think this was the weakest episode of the series so far, and I can completely agree with Jamie's there. I feel like it completely stops the momentum of the show. You know, we'd hit this perhaps divisive or perhaps controversial part of Alien Earth, you know, with the communication thing with the lung burster, but it was still really interesting. And I was still very curious to see where it went. And this just sort of, in theory, this episode should have been fucking awesome and really interesting and really exciting. But the execution just isn't there. I'm disappointed to say, especially because I'd actually found, you know, I'm kind of in Greg's sort of ballpark where I wasn't that thrilled on the first two episodes and I'm not quite jiving with Noah Hawley. But I really enjoyed 3 and 4. I thought 3 and 4 were substantially better, even if necessarily the alien wasn't a huge focus of them. Everything else was really strong and the other creatures were really strong. So this one, there was things in, don't get me wrong, I'm the kind of person that always tries to look for the things, you know, look for things he enjoys as well. So there are things in here I did actually quite like. I think the best shot of the alien so far is in this episode, which is when the behind the shoulder shot of the alien coming down from the vents in front of the captain. I can't remember her name, Valinsky or no,
Zaveri.
Severi, yeah. Which is another thing about these characters as well. I can't tell you any of the names. Well, really any of the names other than the poor unfortunate chlamydia guy. That's literally the only one that stands out in my memory because of course it does. But yeah, so there's things in it I like. For the most part, I found it disappointing. It just lacked in execution. I literally just watched it again as prep for this. So Jack's hardcore. He stays up till 3 a.m. to watch him when it drops on our time. I watch him at 6 a.m. in the morning before work. And then again before we record these episodes. And I enjoyed it more the second time round. And I don't know if that's because I just have a thing where once I've seen it once and my expectations are set, I then can adjust what I expect from it and stuff like that. I don't know if that's just a me thing. But I would agree with Adam's assessment where it's kind of mid to poor, and I put it back on the same marks as the first two episodes there, unfortunately.
If anything, it's given me a bit more sympathy for people who dislike the show, because it can be frustrating when the majority consensus opinion seems to just be really positive, and you're like, what were you all watching? Were we watching the same thing? And that is how I felt about this episode.
I was saying the same thing in that chat earlier, wasn't it? You know, I was like, am I out of touch? Are the critics out of touch? What's going on here? And to be fair, I kind of had that thought going into the show, you know, because we're past the point at where we had access to stuff. I'm just going to put that out there. You know, we don't have scripts for the rest of the series, but I had certain expectations based on what we'd read, and I didn't really have a lot of confidence going into it. So when I saw those critic reviews come out, I was like, it's not that good, is it? He hasn't executed it that well, surely. So yeah, I've been feeling that as well, Adam. I've really been feeling I don't know what's happening here.
That is a very strange feeling, which I've also been kind of falling into this past few weeks, and I really wanted to kind of try and like it more, and especially with my better reception of the last few episodes, I was like, yes, I have some momentum and wanting to see this succeed. And it's just strange when you don't connect with it, but you see that a large group of people uh, do, which I'm very happy that some people like it, but at the same time, like even though I haven't enjoyed the first two episodes that much, I could understand better to a degree why others like it more. I could kind of see both the sides of the positive and the negative there. But for this one, uh, I do not really understand. Uh, Not so much as if somebody likes it, but for a large group of people that think it's fantastic and the best one yet, I am having a hard time understanding how the things that probably bother all of us don't affect them, and what is it that in this episode is so much more important to them and of better quality than 3 and 4. It's just a very strange
Or
kind of
or
headspace to be in the fandom.
Romulus. I
Oh,
mean,
oh, I'm not even
get
going into that,
fucked.
but yeah,
Get fucked if you think this is better than Romulus. I'm sorry. I'm just going to be that blunt.
people do think that I'm trying trying to be understanding of that, but yet there have been some
Have
very
no, have your
passionate
passion, Greg.
conversations.
Have your passion. I saw a comment earlier that made me fucking roll my eyes, where it was like, apparently we're not passionate or knowledgeable enough in regards to the Alien
Uh,
franchise, and my initial response was to type from the AvP Galaxy page, then go get fucked. But I was like, no, I probably should be a bit more diplomatic on
Oh
on the
man, I wish you
Facebook
would have.
stuff.
Oh man, that'd be
You know
great.
me, I think about what I'm about to do and then don't do it. So anyway,
oh yeah,
yes, sorry.
yeah. That's also one of the thing with the kind of disconnect between people who are liking it and disliking it. Of course, I never approve the people that go hardcore in rage baiting and going complete hate mode for every detail and just exaggerating everything. That I've never been approving of. Uh, but so whenever I see somebody going completely crazy on our boards or Discord, we shut it down. But the negativity has been kind of in a controlled manner and in our spaces at least. But for the positivity, the thing that I find strange is that I'm finding more and more people are being very critical of people who are criticizing it, in the sense of like, oh, why are you all just so complaining all the time? It's
Well,
perfect. Why are you like, isn't it normal for us to discuss what we like and don't
that
like?
that is, come on, let's be honest here. That is the fandom experience on the internet. It is fuck all to
Yeah.
do with Alien exclusively. It's fuck all to do with Star Wars exclusively, although I still won't play any Star Wars games because I don't want to interact with Star Wars fans. But that is pretty much, you don't like what I like. You're a wanker. Oh,
It's it's
I love it.
complaining about complaining, which I'll admit in my earlier days on the site, I would get frustrated with, but it was because sometimes that complaining would just feel like dogpiling. Because I remember specifically
Mhm.
really enjoying AVP 2010, and a lot of people were dogpiling on it and being like, "Oh, wait till Colonial Marines comes around, that'll be better." So like
I still
it,
stand by 2010. Just putting it out there. Still stand
yeah,
by that game.
likewise.
Same.
So yeah, there can be a point where it just becomes a bit obnoxious in terms of the complaints, and I've seen that with some fandoms for sure, where it goes from just good faith complaints and criticism to just dogpiling and why isn't this exactly what I want? And so we do try and avoid that. But yeah, and there were things I liked about this episode too. I mean, it was nice to see the amazing production design of the ship. I mean, it was a great recreation of the Nostromo. Essentially, I still wish the ship would have had a bit more of its own identity on the interiors.
It
It,
does.
it
I mean,
had some rooms like the
it
lab and
has.
the interrogation room or whatever, and the armory. Like it had some, but it was
deviations from the Nostromo as well, which is something I like. Even if it's not strictly all brand new areas, there's little tweaks in terms of the existing look from the Nostromo that I think still works well. It was something I liked about what they did in Romulus as well. They take this existing aesthetic, this existing style, and spin it off not only in recreations but in new directions that still feel very much a part of the Nostromo line from Space IKEA. It's just this one has an extra drawer on it compared to the cheaper version. So I think it works, and it's one of the things I have actually really enjoyed again about Romulus and about Alien Earth is that authenticity to that style, which gives it a more authentic feel in terms of this is here. This is part of Alien, even if it's its own fucking continuity. But this is a part of Alien, where with Romulus, this is after Alien, and it's a very. I like how it roots it, and it gives it a foundation, and it gives it this authentic feel in terms of that timeline, in terms of the franchise.
The architecture is a high point, yes, for both of these recent entries, whether it be Romulus or Earth, or whether it be Neverland or the Maginot as well. I do agree that the architecture of the ship itself even is pretty well done. I do like how I think they kind of went a bit too much with making it almost exactly like the Nostromo. Again, the pieces that are expanded are cool and interesting, like the cryo deck with the three flower petals there. That is very nice, etc. I especially like the lower the decks, the engineering decks. They are filled with detail. Industrial looks phenomenal, absolutely beautiful, and with the red emergency lighting, that looks fantastic. So on that part, I have nothing negative to say about that.
What about you, Jack? How do you feel about the Slavish recreation of the Nostromo look?
Again, like you guys, I think is probably one of the high points of the episode. Like you're saying, it feels like it's already part of the existing universe. You don't need to do any more kind of like thinking in your head to kind of make it make sense. It looks close enough to the Nostromo, but with enough different things. Like I really liked the little like camera room that Morrow was in, and he's sliding back and forth, and he's going from one to the other, looking at the different interviews and cameras and stuff like that. And it all feels very like like kind of industrial and lived in and kind of grungy, like the Nostromo was.
Were there any other particular standouts for anybody else? You know what? I know we started the episode bitching, then when talking about bitching, and then was like, oh, I'm trying to lift us up a bit and let's go into things we enjoyed.
One thing I liked in particular, which may not be the same actually for everyone, I'm very interested to hear your opinion about it, is the fact we have on screen now uh, being shown that if you put somebody in cryostasis, kind of answering one of the comments here from Steve Patterson, that says, one thing I took from episode 5 is that if the crew of the Nostromo listened to Parker and decided to freeze Kane, the outcome would have been that the alien would have been birthed anyhow. That is an interesting thing. I like that in that sense, it does empower the creature. And that's one of the strange kind of references that has some roots in the old EU. I mean, with
Nightmare Asylum.
Earth is exactly Earth is so strange as a series that it's trying so much to be its own thing, especially with Holly's comments constantly reinforcing that and how it breaks itself with other continuity. Yet at the same time, there's so many elements from things that they quote unquote don't consider in the canon. So many elements from Alien 3 Resurrection, from the EU. As said, this part of like having the chestburster still be able to hatch through cryo is something from Nightmare Asylum, which I always liked. And was not actually used a lot. Later, actually, it was quite contradicted and shown as a kind of type of failsafe. Oh, put them in the freezer. That'll be the way that you can save your infected friend. So this is one of the kind of interesting, empowering moments of the creature, at least giving it that trait. So what did you all think about that? Did you like it?
That was something
Before we go on, actually, sorry, Adam, can anybody think of any other examples other than this and Nightmare Asylum where it actually bursts in cryo sleep?
Don't
No?
think so. Can't
Okay.
can't put a pin in
Listeners,
it.
if you want to beat us in alien trivia and you can think of some other examples, throw it up, please, because I'm quite curious. Because literally all I could think about was that panel from issue 1 of Nightmare Asylum.
See, I didn't.
Anyway,
Nightmare Asylum is one of my favorite comics, and I didn't even remember that bit, so I need to reread it at this point. That was something I was less fond of. To me, it kind of reminded me of the whole, chest burster placenta, you can never be saved type of lore thing, where it's like, well, the alien always wins no matter what. I was like, no, I like there to be a chance where there's like some stakes and like, oh, we got to get him to the freezer. And there's been so many examples in expanded media of that halting the process. And that creates an interesting thing too, because it's like, well, how do we deal with this once they come out of cryo, right? Um, so I just think I don't know, it was just something that I didn't like because with cryo, you just assume that that freezes every biological process except for like very maybe subtle ones. But yeah, to me, it was just kind of like, that's really not how we've seen this work many a other time. Um, but that's just personal fan preference. It's not going to matter much to most people.
But when I was watching it, in my head, I just thought it could have been that the saboteur had messed with the cryo tube and basically taken him out of cryo, but just left him lying there because they wanted to sabotage the ship. So having whatever burst out and whatever would obviously cause more issues and actually have it be on the ship when it does crash land.
yeah, I hadn't considered that at all.
I I think somebody, yeah, was also mentioning it, uh, in the community kind of comments. So yeah, I think that is something that people have considered. It's not. I personally don't see that it's completely implied, but it's a possibility. They do say, "Oh, we know that the thing can survive in the vacuum of space," which is an interesting bit of background. Like, what happened with them getting those eggs? That'll be interesting to
S-
find.
there's a few comments, not to deviate from the conversation already, but there's a few comments made in the sort of later part of the episode where it implies that there's been some other adventure or some other fuck up, where they have a lot more knowledge about the alien, and then because it was the thing about they can survive in space. Then there was the sort of notion that they knew these things grew after chest bursting and got to a certain size. And it kind of made me think about the timeline shenanigans where they couldn't seem to decide when this was being set, because it kind of made me think, oh, this might be post Alien. Or at one point, it might have been post Alien and they're referring to the events of Alien, with Big Chap being ejected and still being sort of mobile, um, maybe even Romulus, with them recovering Big Chap. So I thought that was, I thought that was an unusual, out of place kind of moment. Is there more to this story? Was there perhaps more of a fuck up when they retrieved the eggs? Did somebody get face hugged back then? And perhaps they were more successful at containing the resultant alien.
I mean, if that was just it, that speaks to a frustrating aspect of this episode is just how nonchalant they seem about their situation. We know a number of them have died. I'm very curious about that, but they don't really go into it too much. And at the beginning, where their medical guy tries to remove the face hugger, it cuts off the tail and it takes off the captain's head. And his attitude is very much like, holy shit. It's not like, holy shit, I killed the captain. It's like, oh, well, whoops, that sucks. And like, it was very,
One of my
There's the
notes.
weapon.
One of my notes is post-death vibe of the mess hall briefing is off. Are they that desensitized to people dying on this mission? Real lack of concern over the loose alien. Are they
Yeah,
that fucking
when
desensitized to it? Has that many people died?
when she's like, "Mr. Morrow, you're in your underwear," it's like, "Yeah, there was an emergency on the ship. The captain's dead. I had to come out of like what is happening here?" Like already right when the episode starts, I'm like, "Oh, they are really acting dumb." And it only continues and ratchets up.
And the whole thing about the tail being fucking cut off as well, for a start. Because the dialogue's like, oh, I just made an incision. With what? A fucking lightsaber? Because the entire tail's fallen off and it's on the table.
A big incision, yeah. I mean, that's something that I said from the previous episodes, which, yeah, here is a lot more evident. I keep on getting hints of the kind of tone and humor, not the same, but in similar vein to Resurrection, and even in some of the AvP Requiem stuff, is it Me or the Clock? With some kind of strange dialogue and tone choices, which, as Adam said, right from the start of the episode, you see, oh, they're trying to recreate Alien, but with a very different tone, which, okay, that may be the original kind of touch on it, but it just it is a dissonance for me watching it.
This, I was really bothered by the lack of concern over the alien. And I think it was it something in one of the recent books that did that? Infiltrator. It pissed me off in Infiltrator that nobody seemed to care about this invisible fucking mutant thing walking around. And I very much got that vibe here as well throughout pretty much the entire back half of the episode. Yeah, definitely one of the downsides to this for me. Tell you what wasn't a downside to this. Ocellus continues to be a fucking
Yeah.
hero. I say hero. Continues to be a strength of the show. I don't agree on it being a hero. Some people had a weird reading that I didn't agree with, and Noah Hawley has confirmed is not the case.
Well, I was very confused by its motivation as well, because it almost feels like it's trying to warn scientist lady, like it's banging on the glass to warn her of the little bug that's
And
coming out.
you are not alone there. Some people have suggested that it's Ocellus is a good guy who was trying to warn her.
Well, I don't
And
know.
I was like, I
Kershia
didn't.
said this thing is intelligent, so maybe it picks favorites with humans or something. So like it looked like the look of its eyes were like, hey, something's getting out or whatever. Like, I don't know. That's how I interpreted it. And then later it gets in the engineer, so we finally see it in a human, which is interesting. And it just kind of does like guttural screeches, and you're like, is it trying to warn them? Like, why did it knock her over? Why is it okay, why is it now attacking the alien and not going after Morrow, and it's biting the alien, but it doesn't break the skin, but the alien's really like freaking out. I did appreciate when it leaves the engineer and it latches onto the alien and the xenomorph is just like, what the hell? And just starts like flailing around. Like that was a very great and kind of comical moment. It was one of the things I did like about the episode was just the xenomorph's reaction to this thing latching itself to the xenomorph after it left that engineer.
So Noah Hawley, I disagreed with this read. I had no thoughts of that at all until I was reading the board and people going, "Oh, I loved it being all friendly and whatnot," and I was like, "What the fuck are you on about?" Um, but then Noah Hawley said in the official podcast for this episode that it was distracting her to allow for the chaos, which was exactly how I read it. And that scene where after it's got in the engineer, the door opens, the captain's on the floor. He'd fucked her up. I took him, the T.O. Sellers making a weird noise to trying to be drawing the alien back. I think was a
Yes.
question mark I had in my notes, but that seemed to be the implication.
That's exactly how I also seen it. That I mean, I completely get why people thought the opposite as well, because it is one of the vague elements. Again, with this show, uh, there are so many blunt moments and so many situations where Like whatever happens, literally the character will explain it back to you. So whenever something isn't absolutely clear, it kind of gives the impression, oh, maybe there's something a lot more deeper behind it, and maybe the vagueness is then up to notch. So I actually understand why people were thinking that. I was confused first with the tapping of the glass, but then seeing, aha, it probably first noticed the ticks are trying to open it, and it was basically like, oh, let's distract the doctor so she doesn't see them crawl out. And showing the intelligence of the creature,
Exactly my
it
read.
was nice. It was nice there. It is one of the highlights in the episode. I don't like how contrived it is, how it escaped, which it wasn't completely badly set up. Like it was a bunch of unfortunate circumstances where the doctor was distracted with the person barging in, etc., because of an emergency. But at the same time, so the eye thing gets out and causes all the havoc and helps the alien then later in a way. Uh, Basically just because of luck contrivances, because the doctor was distracted, didn't close the hatch like they did so many times before, and it's like unfortunate set of circumstances that completely screwed it all up, which can be written in a compelling way sometimes in a story, but here with all of the situations, it felt like it felt strange. It felt strange. So yeah,
I don't know, because this is always one of those things where it's like, are people, you know, when you're watching films, when you're reading books, I suppose more films than books, because books can go into a bit more depth with it. But when you're watching a film, you can kind of often expect people to be better than they are, and people are this stupid. There are professionals
absolutely,
that
absolutely.
are that daft, that do get that distracted, especially when you just sat there munching food. And the amount of times I've gone out to do a job and forgot a tool and had to turn back, or been distracted by something and completely missed a process. You know, I granted I'm not a xenobiologist or whatever, but I've seen people comment, scientists comment on the board. We are this stupid. We do get this
Really?
distracted. Yeah.
I I can't imagine a scientist in a lab setting, let alone a scientist on a spaceship in a lab setting with killer parasites, would be munching on sandwiches and drinking a water bottle next to their work. Like that, to me, that was like a you got to be fucking kidding me kind of moment. Like,
But this is what I'm saying. It's one of those things where if you're not exposed to that actual behavior and that field and those, who doesn't have a fucking idiot coworker? Let's be honest.
but there was a
But
lot of idiocy. And like, you have a ship engineer, this young guy, and almost every line of his is how dumb he is. And yeah, we have that with Alien 3, not quite to this extent, where it's like he doesn't know what the word biology means, and this is some 60-year core important mission for Wayland Yutani. They're going to hire this engineer. Like, really?
well,
It
he's an
just
apprentice, so he's paid slave wages. That's
I
how it
I know,
works.
but it just I I don't know.
So
It just
apprentices are done.
I do
Like the
not.
implication is strange.
It's just odd to me that this mission, which was so important that Utani herself, had Mara overseeing it, would be like, "Okay, engineers we don't have too many these days. How about this guy who's like, did not score or anything, didn't go to school for anything. Let's have him be the ship's mechanic for the 60-year mission where we collect these alien species." I'm like, this makes no sense. No
But
sense. How
he's
dumb
not
some
the
of the
only.
characters are in that.
He's not the only mechanic as well. You got to remember, as an apprentice, he is learning. It is his job to learn from the other
The
people.
word
It's just
biology? He's learning the word biology?
no. I mean, in general,
The
don't be
difference
for
between biology and geology.
that was funny. I actually quite liked that, but I do mean in terms of he is not the ship's chief mechanic. He is not required to be the one who is massively experienced and stuff like that. And this is something I always say about Alien. And sci-fi in general, you don't realize how realistic some stupidity or some unrealistic parts of the franchise are until you experience similar things yourself.
Again,
And
just
sign people have People in this field have commented on the behavior of the scientists in Prometheus, for example. Let's point out that stupid Milburn thing. People have pointed it out and gone, yeah, I know idiots like that. And people have done it for this episode so far as well. So it's all well and good for us to be idealistic and that kind of thing. But until you're in those fields, until you read those recollections of those people in those fields, it
Okay,
seems it seems stupid. It does, Adam. I'm not
I
going to disagree
I
with you. There's
understand to an extent, right? Like, yes, people make mistakes. That can be a catalyst for a terrible thing happening in a movie for sure. Sometimes accidents can just happen. Like in Romulus, the crew of the Corporal were youngsters. They didn't come across as stupid. I mean, sure, they might have made some mistakes at some point where they got panicky, but none of their actions were like head scratchingly stupid. They all kind of made sense, even if they were the wrong actions at the time. This one, again, it's just thing after thing. Scientist eating her lunch next to dangerous parasite, sees parasite escaped. Oh, that never happens. Put it in, doesn't properly secure it in its place, and walks out of here. Why is she even doing this experiment when the ship's in this situation? Like, there's just so many, like, thing after thing after thing. I'm like, who would do this? Who would be this stupid? And at some point,
she didn't know about the chest burster at that point. That she was informed after this.
I know, but just the situation they're in, where they're weeks away. Like, these things, you've already been studying them for so long. These things are going to be studied. Like, once you
Yeah,
get
but
at
they've
this
still
point,
got they've still got 3 weeks, Adam.
they're
They're
in
not going
dire straits. And what
they,
are they even doing up at this point? Like, shouldn't they all be in? Like,
well, that's something the show at this episode did actually sort of clarify. Is they work in shifts.
yeah, yeah.
So
They're
it seems very much like there has always been somebody awake on the ship at all times doing some sort of research or something. I went back and watched the first 5 minutes of the pilot, because we were all like, what the fuck are they doing awake, just going back to sleep for? And it becomes very obvious to me now that was a change of shifts.
Well,
The
for
doc,
that too, the math doesn't add up because you have 3 crew
Yeah.
shifts and they've been gone 65 years. They're all going to be super old. Even if you're rotating like 3 people, if there's always one awake, 65 years divided by 3, like
That's 20 something each
yeah.
person, each of those pedal. So like 7-8 person crew are then awake if we assume equal time. That kind of crew group is always awake. Then yes, that is 20 something years, which would have been possible for the kid's age. Some people commented that maybe it would make sense with the older engineers comment with him about his wife.
absolutely. Because to be
That
fair
makes no
to him,
sense with the kid.
he looks fucking rough himself. He looks old and rough anyway. So you can kind of
Yes.
buy the idea that he's perhaps been quite awake throughout. But I'm not going to disagree with you there. It's not like this. I've come off as being quite defensive here. It's not like the show makes entire sense to me. It's just there's certain things like that I will be like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna throw. I disagree with you, Adam. I'm gonna throw
From your corporate
weight there.
experience, it's always seems like you're here to come in and be like, no, you don't understand. People are this dumb.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I can say, as someone who currently works in a lab, I have seen people try and get things out of a toaster with a fork, and I'm like, how have you made it this far? Like, I worked in retail. No one that comes in will know the difference between geology and biology. Like, and it could also be that the young kid, if they've been in these shifts, he might have been born on the ship. That's why he's so stupid.
Possibly.
yeah, I mean,
It's a reach, but
so okay. So another thing, it's weird for me because I've been the most positive about the series, but I'm just like thrashing this episode. Um, the 2 things that really pull this out of the main Alien continuity for me are the ship travel time. That's, other than a generational ship, unheard of in Alien. They treat it like it's normal. They don't treat it like it's any sort of like wildly different mission to other ship missions. That means no Wayland Corp. That means always Wayland Yutani, at least before 2050 something. So that takes it out of wider Alien continuity. Second thing is the 5 corporations ruling everything, the lack of any government entities. So I was looking for it. I was like, did they mess up here and have the Three World Empire patch on the body bag? Because that would have been great, but it
Have
wasn't.
have you
But
not given up with this yet, though?
I was about to, okay? But they remind me
Why
every
now, then?
single episode. There's always like an exposition moment where it's like, oh, by the way, did you remember the five corporations run everything? And
Yeah, but I mean,
it's like he explains it to the
expect
kid again when he did in the first episode. And it's like it just feels like it doesn't make sense. The 65-year thing. Maro's
see,
like, let me talk to
that's what I'm
Yutani.
saying.
It's
That's
like,
what I'm
she's
saying,
dead,
more.
dude. Like, you don't know this? Like, you don't know the mission you were on? Like, I don't know. There's just those two elements have caused a lot of frustration for me. And I could just let it go and enjoy the show. And I was doing that if it didn't have to remind me of it every single episode where they need the exposition moment. It's like, oh, by the way, five companies rule everything. Oh, by the way, this mission is 65 years. I'm like, we've been through this how many times now in the series? Like, we get it. Like, I know you think maybe some people are starting on this episode, but like, I don't know. It's just gotten a little frustrating at this point.
But this is what I was saying before. You've got to fucking. I wouldn't be able. Obviously, I hate this. Well, I don't hate this. I was disappointed by this episode, but I am firmly in that headspace of don't fucking think about any other piece of media. Adam's there like, oh, nothing else has done this. I'm doing my mocking voice. I'm sorry. Nothing else has done this kind of journey before or this kind of mission before. And I'm like, yeah, but you've got it. Everything else, fucking eject it, mate. Do not even consider anything other than Alien in
That's
terms of.
true. That's
So
true. But
don't get wound up
once it
about
does that, like,
sweat
okay, we
patches
can
on.
move on, and
Yeah, lovely.
I can like headcanon it or whatever. It's like you just don't need that much exposition on the same plot points over and over and over again. Like, we haven't really seen these five companies come into play. We've only had two, so I don't know why they need to keep mentioning it.
There's
And
5
this
seasons.
and the 65-year thing, there's multiple factors where it just does not make sense, like we've just discussed with they should be older. So it's like if you keep reminding me of that, it's harder for me to just enjoy the show because you're like, okay, you keep on reminding me of these things that don't make sense or really divorce the show from everything else. It's like, okay, we did that, I've accepted it, let's move on. But if you keep reminding me, it's like, okay, why are we talking about this so much? It doesn't have too much impact on the plot. You could have had the exact same plot without these factors. Like, I don't know. And yeah, I'm the whiny fanboy this episode, which is shocking to me because I have been glowy about this show until this episode. This episode was just like, what the hell were you guys doing? Like, I hate to be so negative. I'm sorry. It was just this, and I need to watch it again and give it another chance. But it was like, wow. Like, I don't know.
I think part of the frustrating elements there are with a lot of us who were fans of, I mean, now it's becoming strange to say we're fans of not just Alien, but also Aliens and the other films, and maybe even the prequels and expanded media. So we coming in, some of us try to compartmentalize the elements of this show and say, okay, uh, this maybe was connected, maybe wasn't, and yeah, some elements that fit, but we're trying to kind of put it to the back of our minds. But I think what Adam is saying, constantly being reminded of those elements that irk us, that aren't like, oh, they are great elements. No, they are things that we accept and we kind of put to the side so we can get to the good stuff in the show. But when we're constantly reminded of those kind of key points, it's a disconnect. The producing creative crew that's creating this show, they are obviously very proud of their setup, their world building for this show, and they want to just put it up there again and again and just show it to us and tell it to us again and again. And it kind of disrupts us from trying to look at this as just its own thing. It constantly reminds us of the other films, how it doesn't fit, instead of letting us enjoy just what it is here. So I understand that those are kind of the strange elements. And because I'm kind of obsessing over the details of each episode, the moment Morrow got those papers with the records from his daughter, the first thing I was doing was not just even reading the text. I was reading the goddamn form to see what do the numbers mean, what do the logos mean. So yes, they were using the aliens Will and Yutani logo in 2055. Okay, we got another extra added confirmation. Absolutely, Whale and Yutani has existed like that since 2055. No ifs and buts about it. People were
In this
hoping and
continuity.
in this
That's
continuity.
something I always feel, like with sorry to interrupt there, Greg. But like what you were saying earlier about the cryo stuff, what Steve was saying earlier about the cryo thing, I just asterisk everything with in this continuity.
In this bubble, which for now is a little bubble. The thing that I generally am not a fan of with alternate continuities, etc., is that if it's just a little bubble, okay, you can have it and visit it, ignore it, or whatever. Uh, but we do not know the scale of it and if it will overcome and envelop everything that comes later. Will it push all future projects to the side? That's a bigger conversation. We don't know until we see how successful it is, etc. But that's the thing with we don't know how big or small this is for now, how much it'll have ramifications on games, novels, future films, future shows or seasons, if there are any other in next decades when Holly has moved on to something else. There's so many kind of elements there that will hang. Um, yeah, regarding to saying in this continuity, there's something that we need to kind of let also viewers know who maybe don't watch the FX podcast. First, all of you, after you watch an episode, you really should watch the interview with the creative team because they literally explain the episodes and what they were thinking, etc. And yes, before Holly was implying about things being differentiated, but now for episode 5, he has literally said this is a separate canon to him. So it's no more of
Oh, really?
people actually.
So he came out and said that in episode 5 of the original of the official podcast.
Yes,
Okay.
we've transcribed a
Okay.
part of that thing.
I'm
He
glad because
basically
I'm glad that he's clarified that, and I've enjoyed the official podcast. I haven't listened to the latest episode, but this was something that they really kind of were a bit wishy washy about when I think they were asked about it before, and I think it does lead to some confusion among more casual viewers or casual Alien fans. I mean, Hunter was telling me he had someone asking him like, "Well, how does this fit like with Prometheus or something?" And he had to like explain it. So granted, I don't think it's always the responsibility of the filmmakers. Like you don't see a disclaimer at the start of Terminator Dark Fate like, hey, this is its own thing or something. Like so it's but it's good for them to be transparent about it, and I'm glad Holly was here. So
This
I'll have to listen to that.
this is one of those things where it's always the like I always say. I say recently, as Alien fans, we should be used to alternate continuities. Just crack on with it, blah blah blah. But this is why with Alien 3, I used to be quite against the idea of the reboot because with with Terminator, you can kind of think of your audience being smart enough to know, oh, it's time travel in this franchise. Maybe it's another alternate timeline. You don't get that with Alien. You can't watch this and start it and go, oh, it's an alternate continuity straight off the bat. You just can't. The mechanism isn't in the franchise like that. Um, but I've also just accepted it. But I completely I get where you're coming from, Adam, because I've had similar conversations. I've had the same conversations with my lass. Bless her, she said this episode was the worst as well.
It's nice to know I'm not just alone, and I'm sorry for anyone for being overly negative, but it's like I just feel I was such a high on how much I was enjoying the series, and this one, for whatever reason, I'm gonna give it another chance. There were things about it I liked, brought it down for me. Another thing I gotta say is like the character of Mr. Tang. We've spent so much time focusing on how creepy this dude and is watching this girl, and it just goes nowhere, and he's just dead, and that's it. Like
I knew he was a red herring. I just knew he was not going to be the one to do it.
I fell for it. I have to say I fell for it at the start, and that's because I goddamn forgot the first line when Morrow said that he won't be a problem if he doesn't want to not get paid for the 65-year journey. I should have clocked that the first time. Yeah, they wouldn't, especially in the Holliver's, they wouldn't be paying their synths. So I was like, yeah, goddamn. So yeah, I was constantly expecting it to be him, and I mean, yeah, granted, the characterization is very strange, but the actor does a good job making him creepy with "You're not getting it."
Oh,
I remember
absolutely.
that line.
I think the actor was fantastic. It really made him unsettling and strange and creepy, and even just like the low voice, you know, it's that kind of thing where he's one of those people where you have to lean in to listen to him, and it gets creepier because you're closer to him. I really liked that actor. Actually, really liked him. I just wish they went somewhere with the character, with that creepy thing.
I was
Yeah,
like thinking he was going to infect her with the face hugger or something because he kept watching her. So I thought that was just going to come to a point where he had some motivation. Maybe he wasn't the main saboteur, but maybe he was like partnering up with him or something. Like, yeah, there was just so much time spent on that I was like, this has to lead to something other than just, oh, the alien got him, and he was a creep. The end. Like, okay.
say things were going just so quickly by that point that even when uh Tang kind of alluded to what was happening with the cryo uh, there, it just goes over so fast. I mean, basically, Morrow and Tang kind of clear it out what he was doing. It was just basic, very gross, creepy. Unfortunately, completely common and realistic things. He was just perving on her like badly, badly. I don't understand how he was uh, using the cryo to not be in cryo? I mean, yeah, 'cause I don't get it. Morrow was saying, "So are you going in through the vents, et cetera?" And then, uh, and then Tang says the implication about the cryo thing, which I was thinking, "What, is she waking up?" But wait, no.
He I
He's
think
already
the
woken
idea
up.
is the engineer must be decent with computers, because the idea is that he's the one that's deleted all the logs. He's able to trick. He's the one who deleted all the communication logs. He's apparently able to alter the cryo logs to say he's still in his cryotube. That was my reading of it. Although, not to steer us back into negativity again, it fucked me off that after Tang said about the cryotubes, Morrow didn't go and do a visual check straight away. Instead, he asked to he was doing something else. I can't remember what it was, but then it cuts to him confirming. Oh no, he was checking the comms log. He was watching all the comms stuff, and it's only after he finds out who's done it does he then go and check the cryo tubes. I was like, as soon as Tang mentioned about cryo, he should have gone and checked and made sure everybody was supposed to be in there.
I was more confused when they knew there was a saboteur and they'd seen it on the video, and the person in the video had hair, and he's questioning Tang. I'm like, it's definitely not Tang. Like he's a weirdo, but like unless he's got a wig or something, like it's a bit of an odd one.
So Sarah says, but everybody on this ship is an idiot apart from the one character we haven't seen at all.
No,
So
he's an
two things
idiot
there.
too.
Well,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Petrovich. Oh my god. Oh my god.
because he doesn't even know the name of this company or who this guy is. He's like, okay, yeah, I'm just going to risk everything and kill my friends and release these creatures that I have no idea what they do, even though we've been studying them for 65 years. And no one seems to have it. Even the scientist who gets killed by the bug farting in her face later, like they don't seem to have any idea what they do later. But he's like, oh yeah, I'm just going to risk everything and crash the ship in the city. What if I don't survive? And Boy Cavalier's like, oh, well, sucks to be you then. I'm like, you're going with this guarantee? Okay. This is a little bit of a suicidal sabotage thing here, but
two things on that though. We had seen him before. He was in the opening episode. I
Yeah.
in my notes was like, Have we met him? Is he in the pilot? And he was one of the ones that was going into sleep. He's the one that the doctor stole the ball from and went, "You're not supposed to eat before you go and cryo sleep. I'm having that." And there was a couple of moments there. Once you know the context of everything from episode 5, and you go back and watch sort of like his expressions and stuff. I actually enjoyed the opening scene a lot more having watched number 5. I thought it played a lot better. Apart from a little bit of the exposition and stuff. And the other thing is, according to Noah Hawley, this was the B team. This entire lot was not the senior staff because most of them had already died. The captain had died. The senior science officer had died. Who knows how many other people were lost along the way. So yeah, they were supposed to be idiots as well. Anyway,
None of that is conveyed. Like there's no weight
Exactly.
to how many people they've lost. That's really like given time for them to like have a moment where they're like grappling with like, wow, we've lost like a third of our crew. Like that's everyone. It just seems like another day at work for them.
I am glad that Holly kind of confirmed that. That does add a lot of context. Though I also agree with Adam, it didn't seem like that at all. They weren't going like, "Oh, I wish my superior was here. I wish this person was here. Oh, we lost them. They were so much better," or blah blah blah, or "How did they used to do this?" or something to convey that there were competent people before. Again, to play devil's advocate, I completely agree with what the others have been saying, that there are incompetent people in all fields. Oh boy, have I seen them as as well in places they shouldn't be. But I also empathize with Adam at the same time there are incompetent people. But it's about the ratio first, and second of all, just because something is realistic, I love realism as a basis for many things in entertainment, but that doesn't make for a compelling story always. So seeing competent people get screwed over is also good. And again, if you have incompetent people, kind of emphasize that, yes, we know they're incompetent, and contrast them with more competent characters. In that sense, I think that could have worked better, because a lot like this, you're just confused in what's happening. Why is it happening? And it just it just feels so much different than in Alien. It's so clear they're trying to make extreme parallels. Like, we have Alien at home, but the characters are a lot less competent. Again, space
yeah,
truckers put on protective gear for dissecting the hugger. They don't. A little thing, but
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
They're scientists. The scientists have been studying this for who knows how long, and they have multiple ticks. They haven't cut open the tick even once to see
I'm
that it has the gas.
I'm curious as
Okay.
to if that's got any basis in. It was in my notes, and I hadn't had a chance to look at it actually. But if there was any basis in that being an actual defense mechanism for ticks in the real world, what kind of defense mechanisms do they
They
have?
They have they do have kind of poisonous things that if you Lyme disease, etc. Basically, they have a lot of bad things when they're attached to you, and if you pluck them off wrongly, they can spew a lot of things in you. It has some biological basis. They were okay. They were interesting, though. Again, they're nothing super special. They're just like space ticks, mutated ticks. If you look at a fictional sense, nothing
Yeah.
super.
Yeah, they weren't.
Whoa.
They weren't massively interesting, were they? Although I did. This is again the theme of the show for me. Is I like that, but that pisses me off. Like, I completely understand where folk are coming from with the whole they weren't wearing face masks and all that kind of stuff. But I actually quite liked the dissection scene. I thought it was
It looks nice.
reasonably intense. Um, Same for the whole lead up to the apprentice drinking the tick eggs. I know you weren't fond of it, Greg. I know you weren't fond of it, but I actually really enjoyed the way the camera just focused on the bottle while everything else was going off around it and waiting for that moment to happen. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I thought a lot of the creature stuff with the ticks as well, like they were probably my strong points for the episode, like with the Oculus and with the ticks, like just being weird and creepy. And there's one tick he's gone to hide in a sandwich, another one is just spewing all his eggs into water, which made anything that I saw people drinking for the rest of the day, I was a bit like, that's a bit.
I made that joke when Megan came home. She's got one of those giant fucking containers that everybody seems to just walk around with today, and I went, careful, you don't want any space ticks in there. She was like, thank you, I didn't need that mental image.
But like going back to the B team thing as well, that's been one of my biggest frustrations of the show so far. Is like so much stuff they just explain in the podcast afterwards, and I'm just like, explain that in the show. You've got a TV show, say this stuff in it, and don't make people have to go like trawling through a podcast separate from the show to try and find out. Like with the Oculus, like I was on Adam's side. Like I very much thought it was knocking to kind of warn the scientists, and I'm like, I see what's coming on both sides, but it's like everything just getting explained afterwards just kind of ruins any kind of like, I don't know, like suspense for actually like explaining it in the show, as it were. Because I think it was the same with the communication last week, where I think it was something like Holly was saying, like she's not actually talking with it, she's just kind of thinks she can. And I'm just like, well, like show that in the show or show that later on in the series rather than just being like, we've explained it for you now. There's no real build up.
And they might do, to be fair. I mean, there was the line in regards to the communication thing. There was the line anyway where Boy was like, maybe she just thinks that's what's happening. It might not necessarily be the case. And it's been something I've been trying to sort of remind myself and remind everybody else about is, it is a TV show, but it isn't 8 self-contained stories. It's a different kind of show where it's an entire story split up over 8 hours. So I think that's, for all we know, Jack, next week when we get the lab sort of stuff, they might go into that in more detail. We don't know at this point, and that I think is a little difficult to always remember. But I get your point though, mate, especially in regards to the B team stuff, because I imagine this is it. This was, again, going back to that podcast, this wasn't something that was originally conceived of in the lineup. This is something that came along the way, even after they'd started filming the pilot, apparently, because the scenes with Morrow in the mother chamber, the captain was played by somebody completely different. And then at some point they decided they were going to do this alien light and recast everybody, and then went back and refilmed stuff. So we said earlier that this felt like an absolute pause in the momentum of the show, and it was, it really was. But there are, there was still things I enjoyed. We kind of already deviated from the the Oculus stuff. I still find it fascinating. I love it. I do kind of wish we'd have seen some close-ups of it on the alien face. The moment where it jumps on the alien, I thought was amazing. I loved it. I was like, yes, get in there. But I wish we'd have seen it trying to probe for some way to get inside the alien or something like that. But I still think that is probably one of the stronger elements of the show. And Morrow and Babu, Cisse, even if I did wish he'd go and check the cryotubes. But those two elements and the visual. Well, even then, I think there was I had another note about liking the bit with the torch in the the specimen room where it's kind of recreating Lambert and Parker, when they're collecting the coolant. And there was like a little moment where the chain comes down and it looks like it might be an alien's tail. And I was like, I liked that misdirect. I thought that was a nice moment. And I also liked the visual, the way Hawley actually shot the apprentice throwing up the blood. Because, it's this really stark white light shadow on the actor, but the blood was so vividly red. And I was like, what, that's actually quite a striking visual. I really liked that. So it's the same throughout the other, episodes. As much as I find 3 and 4 particularly stronger, there's a lot of, I really like that, cushioned by a lot of, I'm not sure about that. But I'm happy I'm still finding things I like. Even like that shot, the over the shot shoulder of the alien. Even if the rest of it I don't quite quite like all the
Yeah,
time.
and that was there were some shots of the xenomorph I really liked here, but that was also a pretty frustrating thing for me because I think like I feel people were really dunking on the xenomorph design and how it looked like a guy in a suit in the earlier episodes. And I didn't feel that way. I was more defensive of it. I was like, no, I like how it's just beasting people here, and I like how it's moving and stuff. And I love the performance of the suit actor. But in this episode, it never has looked more like a guy in a suit. In some of the shots they did of it, it would kind of stop to do this interpretive dance thing for a second and then keep moving. Like that, it was just it did not look great in this episode in terms of the suit aspect. In one moment where it's first rearing up to face her, like it looks like you can see just the opening in the neck, and also it just she runs down 4 hallways and it can't catch her.
She
Like
needed to close more doors behind her as she was running. Yeah, I didn't think that was a great moment.
I
But
did like the CG,
the
yeah, the CG
alien,
shots of the alien like really scooting through the hallways were cool. It was when it was just fully lit, stopped, wide shot, showing it, and it just really looked like a guy in a suit here, which I know they've spoken in interviews about how that was specifically the opposite of what they wanted to portray here. But in this episode, again, I like the xenomorph design. That so far, I've really liked Cameron's performance with that. Maybe that wasn't the issue here, but just the way it was shot in this particular episode, it really I was not sold on the illusion there.
it crawling up the door as well onto the roof, the ceiling, and then going away. I thought was a really nice shot. We'd seen
That
that
was
in
a cool one.
the
Yeah.
marketing.
Yeah, that was a nice shot. Another nice shot. Uh, Again with a very flawed chase sequence. I did like that it stopped the door with its tail. That was a really nice visual to show how strong it is that it can just stop it with its tail and lift it up. That was a nice way to frame that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Sarah
That was a cool moment.
says it was cool when it stopped her, yeah, closing the door and pushed it back. But I
And
completely agree.
And
That
that
was
was
my
one of
highlight.
the practical shots that worked because as the door moves up, we kind of go in close on its face, and it's a really striking like visage there. So it's not to say all the shots of the practical xenomorph in this were bad. Like again, I really appreciate and love practical effects, and I'm glad the show has had so much of it. There were just a number of moments here where it gave off that guy in a suit more than I'm used to. Like I'm used to it a little bit, with Alien, but it was a bit much here.
To reiterate the my thoughts on the suit, yeah, I'm emphasizing the things I liked, but yeah, overall it still looked very bad. I do not like that suit at all, and that the production crew was so enamored that they think that it's a good idea to show it constantly. But another one of the shots that I did like, agreed with what Aaron said. Maybe the best shot was when it was lowering down to Zaveri with its back. I actually like the coloration with having those kind of
yeah,
brown with
the
black
bronze.
highlights. More bronzish actually with the kind of black uh, satin type highlights. That looked nice. That looks nice. But when you get to the face and the neck and the
The face is
my
horrendous. I can't get on with that interpretation.
my personal opinion is don't fix what isn't broken. Not even in the design, but in how do you shoot an alien suit? You use a practical suit for close-ups, very short close-ups, and lit in darkness and a lot more glossy. For a full body thing, if you want practical, like the previous films before, you use an animatronic, or you use a person with the correct frame for it. Like what the performer is trying their best with the movement, and I don't blame them. But if you don't have somebody of the correct build, you use an animatronic or a puppet like for Alien 3 or Romulus, etc. If you
Well,
want to show it moving, use more of the CG, which isn't bad, but like use the right tool for the right job. Too many shots of the body suit with those proportions, even in the CG shots, the proportions aren't changed, which is a problem when you still see somebody moving in a suit like that. I personally thought that for the fight scene, with the Ocellus, to bring it back to that, a lot of those shots look completely ridiculous. Some of it was interesting and cool. Some of it had me rolling my eyes and laughing in the sense a guy literally, yes, he was animated by this eye image, and maybe that gives him a bit more strength. But damn, I never would have imagined that in an alien show or film that I would have a guy tackle an alien from behind and that the alien would be screaming like confused, what's going on? Yes, I'm happy
Was
that
cool
it
to hear the
be
aliens pain sound effect back there.
yes, yes, that is nice. That is nice to see, even though it happens when the guy bites him. Thankfully, no, it didn't go through
That
the
was so
kind of
stupid. That was
it
so
was.
stupid that he tried to bite the alien.
I I I understand that the Theoculus doesn't know what it can do or can't do. It's using all of it, but as an image, it's strange. At least it didn't pierce. Like we have that paper cutter able to pierce, so I was expecting it. I was expecting like, oh my god. But okay, the creature did defeat it. Used the tail. It took a little bit long for it to realize it could do that, but okay, it used its tail, and then the image tries to get it. Again, I find it a little bit kind of emasculating for the alien that it struggles so long and so much, but at the same time, yeah, that creature wrecks all other creatures that it infected, and it was nice to see for the first time an alien versus one of the other aliens, non-xenomorphs, and to see that it actually has an edge up against them. Even though I don't agree with how the choreograph of the fights go on, I do like the concept that was portrayed here.
You just reminded me of something else. I'm sick of them calling it a xenomorph as if it means something
Yes.
to them. And God, it made me want to cry. Ovomorph was on there as well, and I fucking hate it.
Aaron and his names he doesn't like between Yacha and Ovomorph and Praetomorph or whatever.
Context matters. That's the problem. Um, I yeah. This is what you get when all your research is just on Xenopedia and you don't understand the context of what you're throwing in the script.
I think they just consider it xenomorph is the name for alien proper at this point. And the one thing
Yeah.
about
But
it
that's not the
being
way of
a
living.
xenomorph, not the xenomorph, is this thing from Aliens that no one remembers. I mean, when you think xenomorph, you think capital A alien, and they're just going with
Another reason Fede reigns superior. XX121 Fede knows to classify.
He tried. He tried, but to bring around another detail that wasn't mentioned, it was maybe a little thing. I don't know how you all felt about it, but to remind myself of something that I did like, in the mother room, the waiting acknowledgement. If you don't acknowledge, we'll put the security officer in place. I like that kind of little nod to almost Alien 3 with the kind of waiting for acknowledgement kind of part there
Yeah,
from the mother.
it did feel a little Alien 3-ish at that moment. Again, I just to cap off the suit thing, I still personally like the design. I like the face, the close-up shots of the face in this I thought were good. And I think you can do practically from wide angles before. There were some behind the scenes shots they didn't use for Romulus that showed them kind of in like a fast walk with the full size puppet, which looked really impressive. And there were earlier tests from Studio ADI with AvP film or maybe Resurrection where it's like really crawling around as a guy in a suit and it looks great. Even in this series earlier when it's going and wrecking that party, like it's more dimly lit. It's crawling really fast. It's still the guy in a suit. Wide shot looked great to me there. It was just this in particular when it's kind of slowly rising and its hands are just kind of down that it breaks it a little bit. So I still feel like overall I am defensive of the design and the practical suit. It's just here I felt more of maybe what others had been expressing from earlier episodes.
Yeah, I quite like the actual design of the alien through the series so far. I think this episode, like having the full body shots, and it just didn't look great. Like, yeah, the chase and stuff like that. It's weird that we're kind of at a point with this where it's like, for this episode, I'd rather be CG than be one in a person, just 'cause it looked a lot better. But Yeah, like I don't think the alien's terrible looking. I just think, yeah, this episode had not great, yeah, shots.
One thing that is common through multiple episodes, that even with the details that I don't like, I have to commend Holly for uh, making the alien use its tail so much. He did say in one of the
Yeah,
interviews he always thought about like what else can it do with the tail, and even with these 5 episodes, whenever we see the creature, it's doing a lot of things with the tail, which you could say in other
absolutely.
previous films it can be underutilized when you have such a big, strong, long, uh, basically an additional appendage, arm,
Yeah.
trunk thing that it can do everything. So it's nice to see it's getting, at least that part is getting the love it deserves. And the design of it is pretty Alien and Aliens. I like the tail. I like the tail design. It has the correct textures.
No, I completely agree with you there. I've always thought the tail is an underused element of the alien. I kind of wish we'd get that neurotoxin thing back from the alien scripts that, made it into a lot of the games as a secondary stun attack. But no, I again wrote down, I love to see the alien using its tail so much, even with it spearing the engineer who was the host to the Ocellus. And just as an aside there, Morrow knifing the other engineer. I liked to see those impalements going on there.
Did you
Um,
get with? I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but when you said about Morrow getting the traitor Morrow as Captain Hook, he basically hooked Petrovich Peter Pan, in a sense, who's working for Peter Pan actually, Boy Cavalier. So that was an interesting kind of uh, setup
mm,
there. So sorry to interrupt you.
that's all right. I was gonna so just talking about good visuals as well. I quite liked the shot of Zaviri. I really can't remember the names of a lot of the characters in this. The shot of Zaviri coming into Mother, looking through the door, and you have the reflections of the Mother chamber on the glass. I quite like that. The show has had some good visuals, even if we do just critique the suit a lot. I
There
think we've
was there was one shot I wanted to point out that I thought was really good where I think it's when in the they're doing the surgery and you've got Morrow, Zaviri, and there's I can't remember the other character outside of the looking through the window, basically, and it's a very similar to one of the shots from Alien when they're looking through to Kane, was it? And I thought that was quite a nice shot. They put a nice kind of like it was like a I can't think of the word, but it's like a visual homage without necessarily just being like a straight up copy. I thought that was quite well done.
Also, odd note here: our first sex scene in the Alien films or Alien universe. Alien 3 does not count. So that was the thing. I thought it was interesting how they said romantic relationships between crew were against company policy, and I'm like, that's a little odd. You're gonna have these people be out in space for 60 something years, and you're not gonna allow that. Like, again, not to compare too much to the wider lore, but in Alien Isolation, they would have signs saying
How
like,
well do you know your
yeah,
long haul
so
sexual partner? I think it
yeah,
was.
so
Which
Oh,
is a direct
oh, you're
reference
right.
to Alien.
Alien Covenant had one. My bad. Okay, I forget.
yeah,
Uh,
the
yeah.
infamous shower scene.
Yeah, but Alien kind of also with the behind the scenes stuff
It
implied
was very much a
that
part of the behind the scenes
yeah,
culture, wasn't it? They were all sleeping with each
yeah.
other, and there was the deleted scene as well.
So that was strange. Maybe that's the reason they're all get a little cuckoo and they're not at their best performance. So
Not,
later
not
when they
enough.
send out the alien Nostromo, they let them be more free, and that's why they're so competent.
Well,
Maybe we found out the
isn't the
reason.
implication that Tang's knocking one off stood above the
Yes,
cryo
yes.
tubes, isn't it? Yeah. So
Which is why she was the most calm and the only one who's able to do the sneaky thing. That he's the only one who was competent with his thing. Oh my god.
I didn't mind it, but it kind of felt like almost slasher-ish where
The whole
she's
episode.
like she's remembering like banging this guy and then looks down at him and he's got the face hugger on, and I was just like, that is a little horror movie tropey. I didn't mind it, but it was a little funny. It got a chuckle out of me.
So I think we've hit most of the talking points from this, but I'll just go through some of the other ones that I've got that probably aren't worth much talk, but I just want to mention. Maru straight up telling the captain everybody is expendable. You know, I was like,
Yep.
we don't need subtlety, do we?
Yep.
The male scientist saying how stupid smart people are. Really liked that.
That was nice.
Something I wasn't keen on was the cryotube actually doing a freezing effect when they put the head scientist guy in there, because I don't think that's ever been the way it's really been depicted. You know, the lid frosting up, because then when we later see the cryotube as well, that effect's gone. None of the others even have that effect either. So you know, when it freezes his cryotube, there's one next to him without that effect at all. Didn't like that. Acid burned through 3 decks exactly, like in Alien. You know, when they cut the tail in the thingy. Although I didn't see the point of the cigarette drop. I thought that was daft.
Does anybody understand where the acid came from in that engineering bay? Because I didn't
I
catch that
assume it
from the
was the
camera.
tail, trying to cut the tail off. I
Did
assume
that
that was when
happen?
where that happened. That's the only place that could have happened.
Ah,
But it
okay.
melted through the whole guy's neck, so you would have thought they wouldn't have taken him. It just seemed a bit weird because yeah, there's acid there, but then they've gone to cut the tail off, and it's gone through the guy's neck. But then he's back in like the med lab. You would have thought there'd be more evidence of that.
But then if they'd have done it on, you mean evidence of the transport?
Well, no, like saying the acid blood that's come in like it was like the storage area type thing. So if they're going to cut the tail there, then I know I might just be getting mixed up with how the stuff is. But obviously, you've got the acid in like the storage area where they get face hugged,
Mm-hmm.
and then I would have presumed they would move them to like a
Oh,
medical
you
bay
would have thought
before,
they'd have done it in the
before
medical
trying
bay
to cut
rather
them
than,
off.
yeah. Well, that's another one of those where they show stupid things, because you would think that, but the med lab doesn't have any acid on that table, at least not that I noticed.
Yes, you're right. You're actually right about that. Yeah, it's only just barely melted through. It's melted through the flesh, not through the med bay like you would
Yeah.
expect in aliens. So it would make sense that it was in the engineering bay. But then at the same time, so
Why would they do
you
it
already
there?
so he was already dead and melted through, and they carried both the head and the body for no reason and put it there
And
in
the
the med
tail, and the tail.
and in the tail. Okay, okay.
And just left everything attached. Just why not?
Yeah, sure. The dirt over the cryo tube felt weird because it's like he's already dead.
Well, I think the actress was interviewed on that, and she was like, the dirt was kind of their it was like their log cabin on the lake, right? Like it was
It's
their
not dead
place they
yet.
wanted to eventually go, and then later she pours out the dirt because she's given up. She's like, I'm never going to make it back to Earth. I'm going to die in space.
But that's
So
the
that
point. She does it twice. So she does it over him on the cryo tube like he's already dead,
well,
even
that
though.
was like the here, like we still have hope moment. I kind of took it for, and then when she
But it's
pours
such
the
it's
rest
such a
out,
forlorn gesture, though.
yeah, I don't know. Like it was nice that Utah got a little moment. I appreciated that.
I did like the little shot of the facehugger tail moving in the cryo tube, though, because it foreshadows the stasis not affecting them.
That's a nice detail. Completely agree.
The crew sleep in those little alcoves off the mess hall. There's no crew quarters for when they're actually on their wakey shifts? Question
That
mark.
seems a bit odd.
Yeah.
Unless they were taking a
You don't
nap,
notice that.
and that was,
Well, that's where you find Morrow. Well, maybe that's just him being more of a hardcore kind of person, but
yeah.
the ticks are species 19, is what she says. So even though they have 5 species on board the ship, they may have encountered more.
And these are the only interesting ones to be brought back. maybe interesting.
I so would have liked to have seen at least a glimpse, a flashback of them on a planetary surface obtaining some of these things. Like, because that was such a part of their journey, was obtaining these, and they lost people doing it. I'm like, that's just so enticing. I
You'd
want to see
expect
some
that
of
to be
that.
the flashback stuff, wouldn't you? Yeah, absolutely. Alien eggs and Hulk have something in common. The alien eggs emit gamma radiation, and that's how
That
they
was
were
interesting.
planning to track the chest burster.
That where the blue light comes from? They're just radioactive.
Yes, exactly.
Eric believes that that is just a kind of dialogue way to segue into them just saying Geiger counter for like
just, just, just for the God,
yeah.
that's a bit
It's
ham-fisted.
Giger, not Geiger.
Eh,
Uh, I did like Cavalier telling the engineer he doesn't give a shit, just get on with it. I was like, yeah, that's a moment that I emphasize with as a support guy. I don't care about your life story. Just tell me your fucking problem so I can try and fix it.
Mm. I will say, I had kind of thought, like, how wild is it that this ship just happens to crash in the city where our story takes place? And so for it to be like, oh, it was planned to crash there. That
Yeah,
was, even though
that's come
I
together
didn't buy
nicely.
into this guy like having the motivation for sabotage here, I still found that to be okay. It's explained. The ship was planned to crash in the city. That makes more sense. I appreciate that.
Same. I agree. I agree there.
So what did you think about? I mean, it being a boy Cavalier. I admittedly I wasn't thinking it was going to be exactly him. I thought it was going to be sabotage for some separate personal reasons or even another company or something. But yeah, I was taken aback with it being Prodigy all along.
You'd kind of think it wouldn't necessarily be Boy doing the deal, and it'd be like Atom or somebody else. But no, it ties a nice little bow onto it that I'm happy enough with. Is Boy lying about being able to put the engineer into a hybrid, or was it always a lie that it was just the kids? Now, this has been something I've said in some of the previous episodes that I think that it can be done with adults, and it's him fibbing about doing it as kids. Because that's what he promised the guy, isn't it? That he'd turn him into a hybrid.
Well, he says if it works out, and they are beta testing the kids so they can do this with adults.
Yeah.
It's like they haven't perfected the technology, but they've made it clear that's their intention, is like, this is a product that we want to give to wealthy people.
I think he's more bluffing that you can do it, and that the truth is that it's not even close to being able to do it. He's like, yeah, we can do it almost when we get a few of the kinks kind of worked out." And he says, "When we do it, you'll be at the top of the line for the treatment." So I think that I'm take since the show is very literal, I'm taking it as face value for now, instead of inferring that maybe there's something deeper that they always could do it with adults, but they're using the kids because kids are easier to control. I get that theory. That could make sense, but I doubt that's what they're setting up. I'll be surprised if that turns out to be the case. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm thinking he's just bullshitting. Because like at the end of the day, if you can already maybe do it with grown-ups, why are you getting kids in when you can just get a couple of loyal employees who just want
Well,
to stick around for a while?
that's where I think he has addressed it well in one of the previous episodes, where he was talking about the creativity of the children's minds over the lack of creativity in adult minds. I think it's him trying to. That's leaning into the whole Peter Pan thing, isn't it? Kids who don't ever grow up, so we can mine them as sources of inspiration.
It's like the Spartan program, right, Aaron? You got to get them as kids.
Well, that's a whole other different thing. That was about control. That was about control and indoctrination.
Maybe he's just looking to make a type of friend for himself. He loves the idea of children. He sees himself as a child, but he's growing up in an adult body, so he wants to make other children in adult
Mm.
bodies to see if they'll be as genius as him. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes by the end.
Here's one I didn't notice. Steve Patterson in the comments says, I wasn't keen on the cryotubes making the same sound as the cryotubes in Aliens.
This was
Specifically.
something, I'm glad you brought this up, Steve. This was something I thought about during the episode, and that wasn't the only Aliens sound effect that was used on the ship. There were a lot of kind of tech sounds from Aliens, which felt odd in the context of this very Nostromo looking ship. So I'm glad I wasn't the only one who noticed that.
Yeah, there was something strange with the sound design. I didn't notice that some of the technology was from Aliens, but now that would make sense because I knew it was from some of the films, but it didn't feel exactly right, like from which one. So yeah, I didn't notice that it wasn't actually from Alien that was being used. So good observation.
And these, so I've got two more that I want to bring up, and then I want to read the post of that guy that I was talking about who was going on about scientists being stupid. So these last two ones were things I noticed on, I think it was Reddit. The T Oculus always going for the left eye, which corresponds to your left hemisphere, which is your more rational, intelligent side of things. I think was it.
But the eyes work in a crisscross pattern. So if you're in the left eye, you're controlling the right side of the brain.
Okay, so is it the right side of the brain that's the intelligence?
I don't know. I will Google it.
Okay. I thought that was interesting. And the last one was, how the fuck was the end song not sabotaged by the Beastie Boys? Which I entirely agree with. Okay.
It was Smashing Pumpkins, right?
Yeah. I you know what? This is the first one I actually haven't found myself bobbing along to at the end of it.
Hmm.
Wasn't keen.
Some people have also theorized about the eye that maybe because they also say that it's a she. However, they knew that. So maybe a mate or whatever would be the other eye. Some in the community have kind of theorized that maybe the females always go for one side. So
Yeah,
there
maybe.
are a lot of speculation. But if it's looking at things from an anatomical perspective, if you're going the right eye, it's connected to the left eye, it's connected to the right side of the brain, which is for creativity and imagination, spatial awareness, facial recognition, emotional processing and social cues, music and language nuances. Maybe that's why it's trying to make those noises with the mouth. Interesting.
I have one more thing to bring up here, and again, it's going to be a little critical. So we leave. Morrow gets where we left him in the crash in the first episode. We go back to that scene with the escape pod. First of all, I don't know why he's trying to get the acting captain up. Like he's showing concern for. He's like, "Get up, let's go." And then in the next moment, he blowtorches her out when he obviously had time to let her in. So it's like, hey, you were just showing concern for her, and now you're locking her out. Okay, that's a weird character immediate split there, but regardless, after this point, we jump ahead, and now he's meeting with Utani in apparently this Wayland controlled city, right? So before in these episodes, I got the sense like he was man on the run, he was in hiding, but suddenly he's in India threatening one of the kids' families, right? And now he's in this Wayland controlled city. I'm like, okay, he's kind of doing a bit of globe trotting here now, which we haven't really seen. That's okay, whatever. It does make me wonder, like, how did you get out of the city? You were kind of in hiding there, but um,
I took it to be so on the top of the tower, on the top of the building. It's one of those jets, the drop ships. So I'm assuming he rang her up
he
and
got
went, I
retrieved.
actually come pick me up, please.
Yeah, so he did go in after all and meet with Miss Utani. The city looked quite a bit different to because it looked like just Bangkok, the tall building she was on before, but in this one there was a real effort to make the city look more North American and unique in terms of like its skyscrapers in the background and stuff. Um, but when Utani walks in and there's a cherry blossom tree in the middle and the Japanese flute is playing and they had these like cyberpunk 2077 ass looking guards like off to the sides.
People have been comparing them to
Oh,
the Star Wars Praetorians.
it was just, I don't know. It felt a little leaning into cyberpunk a bit too heavy for Alien for me. I mean, I don't mind a little bit of cyberpunk and Alien, but it was just like it felt like full on. This is Arasaka from 2077, which is cool, but it might not feel particularly alien. I don't know.
Those hats are absolutely ridiculous. The size is crazy. I get it. They're probably more for show than for any action, etc. Because we know they're sending a Spec Ops team, which will look more classical and more bland normally for the next episode. But yeah, having that red armor there, like, it's obviously performative, very strange for like her personal benefits, if that's what she likes. Okay, but I mean, comparing them to the Red Paladins from Star Wars, I think even that is a bit more subdued than this design was. I mean, those giant, kind of exaggerated horns. That was something. That was something. Of course, that reminded me immediately of Music of the Spears. We've already had cutting of the alien in the kind of joint spot, so now we have the ninjas as well, basically. Yeah, actually more samurai, of course, but yeah, I'm just so confused with a show that's trying to not that's trying to be disconnected from everything else, has so many elements from the Dark Horse comics and from, well, even in this episode, the running away. It was a it was a lamer version of the running away in Alien 3 of the convicts, etc. So there's so many of these kind of ma- material elements from these different places, yet constantly trying to distance ourselves from it. So that's always kind of a strange disconnect. I find there.
Okay, yeah, I can't disagree with you there, Greg, at all. On one hand, I'm kind of like, "Ooh, cool, that's that thing from that other thing," and then blah blah blah. But then it's also like, yeah, but he hates everything other than Alien. And this episode was nothing but Noah Hall literally getting to do you know, his remake of Alien. Funny stuff.
I mean, was I the only one that thought it odd that Mara was trying to rescue this lady and then welds her out?
The actor has, again in the podcast, he has spoke about those motivations, and the explanation is interesting. That basically, he has his orders. He's already kind of, this whole thing has fallen apart, and he says he knows that the little kind of escape panic room, whatever it's called, down there can fit only one person. So he knows that she can't come in and survive. And he says that he didn't want to open the door because he didn't want to give a chance for the alien to come in. He was worried. Basically, the Romulus situation. Don't open the door. Maybe it'll use the situation to whoop run in. So that's why he didn't open, and he sealed because he knew that she couldn't fit in there and survive the crash anyway. So he was like, "Screw you! The mission has been uh, just completely
And I wouldn't
apart."
mind that if just a moment ago he wasn't and he was trying to get her up.
Yeah, yeah. It's all a bit strange, and I mean,
Stop trying to make sense of the show.
When something is grounded sci-fi, you have to expect some people are going to think about it for more than 2 seconds. And if
This
there's
has been
multiple
grounded.
things that don't make sense, it's, I don't know.
I thought the
not
whole point was
really
that this
grounded.
episode made no sense. I thought that was what we were going for.
And that's the problem with this episode. Even like in the context of the series, there were a lot of things that just didn't make sense here.
Had he actually tried to get her up at that point? Because I remember he goes in, she gets knocked down, he moves through, then he kind of gets pinned between Engineer with Oculus and the Xeno coming in. He zaps the Oculus and runs off down the hallway.
This is
And then
true.
she kind of
He's telling
comes
her
to a
to
bit
get
later.
up. He's telling her to get up. He's not like trying to physically help her at that point, but he is saying,
Well,
"Get
maybe
up."
he just wanted her to get in the way and distract them long enough for him to escape. Okay. Anything else, or shall I start to wrap?
Again, just sorry I was so negative. Like overall I'm still liking the series a lot. I'm ready to get back to Neverland. It seems like from the trailer, the next episode, the stakes are starting to ramp up there. So yeah, unfortunately this one didn't vibe with me. I'm still gonna watch it again, give it another chance. It was just when you have the mystery of the Maginot being such this core thing for the series and seeing that and it not satisfying to me was just really frustrating. I'm sure I could convey that thoroughly, but um, overall, I'm still like a lot of hard work was put into this episode, and I appreciate that. Like all the filmmakers, like all the respect for this production. I'm very glad like the show is doing as well as it is, and overall, I'm still very much enjoying it. Just this episode didn't do it for me, unfortunately.
It has a good number of interesting ideas. I appreciate the overall vision that they were going for, but the execution was not up to my taste. I am very much looking forward to the next episodes because we're not in the flashback episode elements again. We're, it's kind of disappointing that in an alien show, everything that is alien is actually not to my liking. Whether it's the creature or trying to recreate the alien, it's to me it's done poorly. So all of the kind of newer elements have a lot more beneficial traits that I find interesting, and I am kind of happy that the other episodes will be directed by other directors and are co-written with other people. Some of the people that have written and directed the third and fourth episode. So that kind of gives me hope that I will find some enjoyment there. But it's kind of strange that in the Alien show, whenever the alien is there or you're trying to recreate Alien with Imaginoid, I am not finding any enjoyment out of it. He does interesting elements and potential ideas with the sci-fi world, but done better if you let the others write it out. He just show runs it, and um, ba- basically it could have. I, I'm just thinking it could have been better if it wasn't an alien show in that sense. But it was its own sci-fi thing. We'll see. Maybe the other things are compelling enough that it kind of grips me back in. The trailer for the next episode is interesting. So we shall see how those elements kind of develop in the future. I hope I have enjoyment out of it as I had with the fourth one, that it ends on something interesting. 3 more episodes to go.
Jack?
Yeah, like, I'm hoping again, like this episode was just a bit of a disappointment, but I'm hoping it's like a palate cleanser. So all the negativity is gone now with this episode. We've got the last 3 episodes to really kind of ramp it up and like finish the series with a bang. And hopefully this is not great. It's out of the way, but like we're moving on, and hopefully the next 3 are going to be spectacular.
And hopefully next time you come on, you'll get to talk about lots of things that you enjoyed.
That would be nice.
So yeah, the next episode is The Fly. Ugla Hooks Doter is back directing it. New writer this time, Lisa Long. I'm not going to repeat anything. Yes, fair point, Greg, in the comments. Because I always want to prove my point, I'm just going to read out that post from the scientist guy on our forum, who was talking about stupid scientists. So he says, I think it's more that Hollywood over the years seems to have painted this picture that scientists, because they are expert in the field, must have their shit together and be super regimented and bound to logic, policy, and follow the rules at all times as if they are Vulcans from Star Trek or they are all Dana Scullys. People do dumb shit regardless of their professions, just like that grocery store worker who really can't be fucked and doesn't want to be there. 9 times out of 10, that's your scientist. If you only saw the horrific shit I've seen when walking into labs, and I wish I could say it was undergrads, sometimes it's PhDs and postdocs, or the dumb shit people do that even a kid should know better, and you end up losing months of usable data, aquariums full of dead specimens, etc. It always amuses me when I see people watch a TV show or a movie and be like, how unbelievable were those characters? They're supposed to be scientists. It's scarily accurate, sadly. The woman eating in the lab, leaving the lid off the highly dangerous organism, on point.
Okay. Fair point. I'll take it from someone working in the field. Maybe we do have a bit of a fictionalized take on how valiant and always wanting to do things by the book that scientists were. I just think it's been a point in the alien films between like Prometheus and Covenant where maybe it is just a narrative thing, but again, if there's so much of it in quick succession, the audience again, we have an idea of scientists, and if you break so hard with that idea, it feels off to people, because it's like, not only are they scientists, they're scientists in space. Like, you would think they would pick like the best of the best to do a task of like going to space and collecting these things, right? But maybe, like you say, Aaron, in the world of Alien, the corporate machine can mess up quite a bit.
No Style Dutch in the comments. Adam, you will read that motherfucker. I left that on the screen long enough.
No Style Dutch says, I used to have a friend who worked with scientists, and he said scientists in Prometheus were completely realistic.
Okay. I'll hand it over to Greg to do. Sorry, that was mean of me. I'll hand it over to Greg to do the quiz. Then I've just got a couple of nice little comments that were left about the podcast and the show, and we'll wrap up. Greg, Quizmaster, take it away.
Alrighty then, I hope you're all ready. Let me get this set up. Okay. As you wake from your cryosleep, dreadfully awaiting your next rotation, Mother would like to stimulate your cognitive functions to help you wake up faster. Who doesn't like being asked trivial questions right out of bed? Volunteering for this procedure is mandatory. Failure to comply will result in forfeiture of all shares. Awaiting acknowledgement.
Acknowledged.
Understood. The first question. In this episode's official FX podcast, Noah Hawley, in a statement about his views on the canon of Alien Earth, mentions how he views the expanded universe as speculative media, using a novel where it explains how queens are formed as an example. Mother's question is, which was the first Alien novel to speculate about how might a queen be formed, excluding the film novelizations, of course? Was it A, Aliens Book 1, B, Aliens Outbreak, C, Aliens Earth War, D, Aliens Earth Hive? Remember or write down your answers. If you need a repeat of the question, ask.
When you're saying books, are we
Which
talking exclusive?
was so I worded this specifically. Which was the first Alien novel to speculate about how might a queen
Okay,
be
so
formed?
you're tricking there. You're tricking. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Next one.
Next one.
Assuming
Question number
everybody's
2.
happy. Is everybody happy? Give me nods. Yep. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead, Greg.
The title of this episode is a play on the old iconic tagline from Alien. Who invented the now infamous tagline? Was it A, Philip Gibbs, B, David Geiler, C, Barbara Gibbs, or D, James Gibbs?
Okay, I'm good. Yep, nods. Go ahead.
All right. The last one. During the episode, we hear Morrow remember and hum the 1939 song We'll Meet Again by Vera Lynn, which has appeared numerous times in different media. This draws a clear parallel to Alien and Ripley frantically trying to calm herself down while humming You Are My Lucky Star. Was that song written for A, Broadway melody, B, Singing in the Rain, C, New York, New York, or D, American in Paris?
I'm not sure the question there again. Could you repeat that?
So the song we have heard in the episode, this draws a clear parallel to Alien, and when Ripley was frantically trying to calm herself down while humming the song You Are My Lucky Star. So that song, You Are My Lucky Star, what was it originally written for, if you know historically the other
I
films?
have no idea with this one. I had to guess here.
Then guessing. I kind of just put it from like easier questions to harder trivial things, as quizzes do.
Yeah.
So it's A, Broadway melody, B, Singing in the Rain, C, New York, New York, or D, American in Paris.
Okay.
think we've got nods. Okay, Quizmaster, take us.
Okay. The answer to the first question is.
You got to ask us for ours first.
Oh yes. What are your answers for question 1?
Earth Hive.
Also Earth Hive.
Okay. Yep.
Jack, you
Sorry,
muted.
can't hear you, Jack. You it's still muted?
There we go.
There you go.
I didn't have a clue, so I went with logic and just said book 1.
Okay. The answer is D, Aliens Earth Hive. The novelization, which was done by Steve Perry, is a novelization of the
It was the
original.
only novel in the choices. He tricked us.
Yeah, yes, but somebody will maybe not remember what is the novel, what is the comic, the title. So that's why it was a novelization of Aliens Book 1, which has the other name of Aliens Outbreak by Michael Hayden. Okay, so the title of this episode is a play on the iconic tagline from Alien. Who invented that infamous tagline?
Barbara.
Okay.
I did David Geiler.
Okay.
I went with David Geiler as well.
Okay. It is C, Barbara Gibbs. She was the copywriter. She was a copywriter. She invented the tagline. Yes, and she was the wife of Philip Gibbs, who designed the iconic poster for the film. So both of them had contributions there. So number 3, You Are My Lucky Star. Which was in Alien, which was
I
with
guessed.
here, for
I
which
guessed in the raid here.
okay,
I just
it's a very trivial edge case thing.
I just
I
did
went
A.
with Broadway Melody. Sorry.
No, we
Nice.
have the same one. I think Broadway Melody. Yeah.
Okay, the answer is A, Broadway Melody. It was written in and performed in 1935, which makes it an almost 2-century-old song that Ripley was humming. And
How
fun
dare
fact,
she be enjoying old music in this?
first, it's an evergreen. It's an evergreen thing. It's like a classic.
I've
And
never
second, she
heard
was
it outside of
humming.
Alien.
Yeah, but it's diegetic. She's humming it. It's nice. But yeah, that song was in Singing in the Rain, and it was in New York. Just later, it was so popular, it just kept on appearing in other.
Did we all tie again? Did we all get 2?
Yeah.
I got 1.
For now, I'll have the quizzes for the next episode as well. I hope you all enjoyed it. With your cognition now in check, you are free to proceed to earn the shares that were generously provided to you by your Wayu contracts. So long.
That was fun. I like that. So before we wrap up, just a couple of nice little comments that we've had. So this was from Kradan on the boards. Random comments that he just tagged us in today. Just wanted to say a huge thank you to Corporal Hicks, RidgeTop, Xenomorph, and Still Collating. Who'da fuck, that was a random tag. We've not had him on for a while. And other contributing hosts. Sorry if I forgot any of you, for keeping up the good work on the podcast show. These are some of the darkest times, and listening to your podcast provides that also needed ray of light. Thank you, gents, for taking the time out of your, I'm sure, busy lives that you couldn't spend with loved ones or dealing with your day-to-day problems, that you use instead to come together and have deep dive chats about all things Alien and Predator. It does mean a lot and is very much appreciated. Forever yours, Kradan. And Kradan is he lives in the Ukraine, so that sums up everything for his dark times. It's very much appreciated. I'm glad we could help you in any way, especially given the gravity of the shit you are going through. And he learned to speak English listening to us, and I always feel sympathy for him because of the quality of the English on this show. But it always tickles me that he says that. And Prez also said, well said, Kradan, several years ago when my wife was going through her cancer journey, the AvP Galaxy podcast was one of my favorite things to listen to. Likewise, was a welcome distraction and something to escape into. So, yeah, again, glad we could help with those shitty times and give you a good distraction. You know, it's something I always say, you know, is to us as well, escapism, you know, and it's why we spend so much time doing what we do and putting the effort in we do. Yeah, glad we could help. Don't think there's anything else left to say, is there? I can't be bothered to do the.
You want me to do it?
Yeah, go for it.
So you can always check us out on our main hub of activity, which is our website, avpgalaxy.net, where we have all the latest news on the franchises, of which there is a lot of right now. We also have editorials, interviews, and informational features if you're looking to familiarize yourself more with the world of Alien, Predator, and AvP. All that good stuff can be found on our website. We're also on all the major social media channels: Facebook, X, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and now TikTok, which is starting to see a little more activity. So check us out on TikTok if that happens, if you're one of the kiddos out there that use that sort of thing. We also have a Discord channel and Steam group. So if gaming is more your speed, you can check us out there. A big thank you, as usual, to our Patreon supporters who make it possible for us to give you the best coverage we can of this stuff. If you'd like to support what we do at AvP Galaxy, head on over to patreon.com/AvP Galaxy.
Indeed. Thank you, everybody, for listening or watching. This has been Corporal Hicks.
RidgeTop.
Still collating.
Dachande.
Guarding the omelettes. Until next time.